up, and of course we have these mutilated animals, and they're mutilated, the cows in particular, with these surgical weapons that doesn't leave a drop of blood and all the rest. So something very strange and very advanced is going on there. Well, it just so happens that there were some UFO things I was leafing through. And as I was going through this one book, I went back and read about this sighting, which I think you'll get a kick out of this. Now, this is David Jacobs, who has done so much good work about hybrids and all the rest of it. He's appeared on the show a couple of times, and it'd be great to have him back. But he wrote this. So check this out. This is during the airship wave. Perhaps the most famous occupant incident during the 1896 to 1897 wave of sightings took place in Leroy, Kansas on April 19, 1897. Alexander Hamilton and his son, Wally, awoke to cattle noises. Going outside, they discover, to Hamilton's utter amazement, an airship slowly descending over my cow lot about 40 rods from the house, quote unquote. The cigar-shaped object was 300 feet long with a carriage made of panels of glass and other transparent substance material. Alternating with a narrow strip of some kind of other material, a large searchlight and smaller red and green lights were attached to it. As it descended to 30 feet above the ground and the witnesses came to within yards of it, Hamilton could see 6 of the strangest beings I've ever seen. Inside, the occupants were jabbering, but Hamilton could not understand anything. Then the witnesses noted that a cow was attached to a red cable emanating from the airship and also was caught in their fence. Unable to free the cow, the witnesses cut the fence and stood in amazement to see the ship, cow, and all rise and sail off. The next day, a neighbor recovered the cow's hide, legs, and head a few miles away. Hamilton was deeply affected and complained that when he tried to sleep, he would see the cursed thing with its big lights and hideous people. Distressed by the incident, Hamilton later said, I don't know whether they're devils or angels or what, but we all saw them. My whole family saw the ship. I don't want any more to do with them. Now, isn't that fascinating? Because that is the first cattle mutilation, really, that I've ever heard of from this period. Because you hear about them all in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. 1897. Wow. Deal with that. Unbelievable. So when you run across things like that, you have to say to yourself, you know, this thing's been going on for a long time. We're playing quite a game of catch up on it. Let's go to Vivekananda, shall we? Mm-hmm. Before I do, though, I'm going to remind you, especially if you're new here, go to darkjournalist.com, sign up for the newsletter. It's going to keep us in touch for the massive, massive censorship that we've seen going on in relation to the ideas that we've brought forward on this program. And I think with everything that's going on, there's good reason for them to censor some of the truths that we're bringing forward here. It takes literally 30 seconds to sign up, but you'll be on track to get information on the documentaries we have coming up. Incredible documentaries. Pyramid X, which I started the show off with. We released it last Friday. That is power-packed with information about space radar, finding the pyramid of records underneath the Sphinx that Casey predicted almost 100 years ago. Come on, this guy is fantastic. You're also going to find out about incredible, and I mean incredible interviews we have coming up, and just fascinating X-Series episodes, live events. It's all in there in the newsletter just for you. Stand up and be counted and make sure you're on board with everything we're doing here, and that, you know, if you don't get your YouTube or Facebook or X Twitter notification, you're going to find out directly from us in the newsletter exactly what's going on. Okay. Who are you, Vivekananda? Well, you're a very interesting man. Some say very saintly and truly incredible character who came over to the United States from India in 1893 and gave this incredible speech about how all the world's religions need to see this higher spirit and everything, and was such an articulate, charismatic person that he sort of created, in a way, the whole guru thing. And it's interesting because it's only 18 years earlier that we have this fascinating appearance of Helena Blavatsky in the Theosophical Society in New York. Well, our friend Vivekananda comes over here in 1893, and they're doing all of these incredible experiments and expositions and things like that. And one of the things that he has to say is that the most incredible thing that happened to him while he was in America was meeting Nikola Tesla. And they spend so much time together, and Tesla demonstrates so much that he understands the Vedas and he understands the Upanishads and others. And he shows him that he thinks the electricity is the bridge to the spiritual world. And when he lights himself up with the electricity, Vivekananda recognizes Indian deities in the things that he's doing. So there's an incredible crossover here from that spiritual level directly to our scientific program. But can you imagine if the more Ahrimanic thing hadn't been allowed to abscond with our science and our technology? We would be in a very different place with all of it, I would say, today. But I'll read just a little bit about this. And this is a direct letter from their associates, Swamiji. Mr. Tesla was charmed to hear about the Vedantic prana, and he tells him all about the Akasha and the Kalpas, which according to him are the only theories modern science should entertain. He further stated, what we call matter does not exist at all. It is only a certain state of force. It took science another decade to accept the fact that only energy exists. The matter is only a form of energy. Prana, energy, is the only existence. Vivekananda, as explained in his book by Raha Yoga, clearly states that it is vibration that started in the initial dormant form of energy that led to the creation of our visible universe. Casey talks all the time about vibration. Almost 70 years later, Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer, conceded that the whole concept of the Big Bang and periodically expanding and contracting universe came from the Vedantic concept of kalpas. Just like a modern-day scientist awakening from deep meditation, he jotted down his vision as to how the universe was created. And he wrote, the scheme of the universe of both microworld and macroworld are built on the same plan. So he has this kind of phenomenal, soul connection moment with Tesla. And along the way, they have this sort of a meeting of the minds about things. And during this whole visit, Tesla meets someone named Lord Kelvin. Lord Kelvin is a famous mathematician, physicist in the UK, and he is also locking into these Eastern concepts of higher energy and all the rest. And so now here's a real documented link to the mystery schools in Tesla, which I think is crucial and absolutely has been missed in some of the various researches. This is Kelvin here. Kelvin's real name was William Thomson, but he's Lord Kelvin, and he's this incredible theoretical physicist, mathematician with a very heavy-duty spiritual bent. But he says in this letter, quote, I do not know how I can ever thank you enough for the most kind letter of May 10th, Mr. Tesla, which I found in my cabin, and the beautiful books which you most kindly sent to me along with it. Thank you for Legrand Initiates.
Ooh.
Legrand Initiates is this classic all about the mystery schools through history by Edward Shore. And this book in the 1890s was the doorway into the mystery school understanding, going through the Rosicrucians, and going through how Buddha and Jesus were initiates in these mystery traditions and all the rest. Tesla is giving that book to Lord Kelvin. What does that say about Tesla? You see, so we start to understand him on a completely different level as someone who wanted to be informed of the mystery traditions, and because of his connection to the scientific world, is very informed on the interaction between that realm and this realm. So what's interesting is through the different communications that they have, we start to get a hint between Vivekananda and Lord Kelvin of the real interests going on here with Tesla, and it goes far beyond, just making a lot of money being a scientist. As a matter of fact, apparently Tesla gave very, very little attention to finances, and that's why people like Edison and others were able to throw him over. But I will say this, that it appears that this meeting with Vivekananda and Kelvin and all the rest of it starts to get him on a quest, and it's very interesting because that quest will lead him in something like 2 decades later to meet with Edgar Cayce and have this incredible reading, which of course disappeared, so we don't know what it said. But again, that was also something that probably brought together his scientific history of knowledge and his spiritual longing. So we understand that mystery school crisscross there. Yeah, what do you got?
No, I mentioned that I feel like I need a dunce cap.
These are some deep players.
Well, and people in the ideas room are as well. I'm reminded constantly of how much there is to learn and that I do not know.
Oh yeah, there's always an incredible amount to learn in the ideas room, and some fascinating things to contribute. But I have to say, you have quite a lot of intelligence and wits about you as well.
Wisdom is more important than intelligence.
I want to plug in something else here, which is someone who doesn't show up enough in our understanding of the mystery school realm, and someone who also came into contact with that advanced technology and thought better of it for humanity's sake and this is Keely's technology, but she put it aside because she thought, she could see World War I on the horizon, and she's like, humanity will literally destroy itself with this technology. So she hid it. This is Annie Besant, and there she is in better days with Rudolf Steiner, who she chose to be in charge of the German section of Theosophy. At a certain point, Steiner decided, Theosophy, although Annie Besant certainly had a high moral ideal, Theosophy is not working out the way it should. I'm going to create Anthroposophy. Here's a little taste of Annie Besant telling us about what she knew about Atlantis and guiding us through the Toltecs, the early versions of the Toltecs and their incredible technology and the way it was used. Quote, many a reference to these Toltec supremacy may be found in the ancient stories telling of combats waged in the air between contending hosts. In those later days also, they used their knowledge of chemistry to construct weapons, dealing out a widespread destruction. A warship high in the air over the heads of the combatants would suddenly pour down a rain of heavy poisonous vapor that would stupefy or slay thousands of hapless warriors, or they would hurl down huge bombs that on striking the ground exploded like lightning, scattering in all directions hundreds of thousands of fiery arrows, spreading the ground with the mutilated corpses of the slain. Do you understand? You get to the Belial thing. It's a very dark period in the Atlantean history. With the advanced technology, they took over. And if they got resistance from these brave warriors on the ground who were primitive, they sent in the airships, with the neutron bomb. So this is the misuse of the 2i technology, the danger that's involved there. And has Besant giving us just that little hint there. And she has something to say about it, which is, she says, in earlier days, the Atlanteans took their scientific studies into the direction of more beneficent directions, to the improvement of agriculture, the breeding of improved types of animals, the production of grain, the cultivation of fruit trees, the enriching of the soil, the use of light in various colors for the stimulation of growth of animals, plants, and human beings, and for the eradication of germinal diseases. Nor must it be forgotten that the wide use of alchemy, the parent of chemistry, in the production of the metals now called precious, and they were esteemed for their beauty as well as decorative agent. Gold was freely used on houses and temples, and gilded pillars were seen in the houses of the wealthy, the palaces of the rulers, the temples, religions. Many beautiful alloys were also made for decorative purposes. Architecture was the art that rose highest under the Toltecs, and some of their great cities were models of strength and beauty. Supreme among them all was the famous city of the Golden Gates, built on a hill which was crowned by the gorgeous Golden Temple, at once a temple and palace. I'll remind everybody that the Golden Age that Trump has been talking about, and gold this and gold that, has very, very deep roots in these mystery traditions. And I would say that some of the warnings that we got there from Besant and Ledbetter and others about what Atlantis was capable of are echoed in Steiner's work, where he says, the problem with the Atlanteans was that they were so spiritually and psychically evolved on one side, but their shadow side were the greatest black magicians with the highest degree of technology. You put that occult piece together with the scientific materialism, and you have a disaster on your hands. So it's very interesting to note that through things like NASA and Jack Parsons and others, and Crowley and others, that they combined this idea of high technology with a very deep black magic ethic. So when we hear about these secret societies that are obsessed with the technology and want to get to Mars and want to dominate space and all the rest of it, there's an occult purpose embedded deeply in all of it. And we have to keep that in mind as we go to get on a different level when we're talking about these things. So when they say, oh, we have to save consciousness and bring it to Mars or whatever, we need to know what's behind that mask. And we have to go to the trouble to find that mystery information that was left there on purpose to bring us into that state of understanding. When we faced off against this, we wouldn't face off against it unawares. That's the balance that was being given there. However, if we don't catch it, if we lose the mystery threads, we stand in the face of transhumanism, the augmented human, completely at the whim of an harmonic, dark, astral projection of a future. That gets into all the work that we've done here on this program about the eighth sphere.